Okay, let's see now. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and this is going to be the expedited accusation calendar with the State Court of Fulton County. This is a list of misdemeanor criminal cases in which individuals who had been recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Your cases have now been formally accused by the prosecutor, which is the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County. This would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer, where I will let you know what is your accusation number, what charges have been brought against you, who is your counsel or your attorney, and also to give you a court date. With regards to your next court date, I'm just looking for my litigation. Miss Grace.
17th, Your Honor.
August 17th?
Yes, it's in the chat.
Okay, oh, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So the next court date will be August 17th at 9 a.m. And for most of the times, this calendar is going to be done virtually. So for those of you who need to attend the next calendar on August 17th, make sure you get the Zoom link from the clerk's office. All right, for those of you who have been charged with a misdemeanor offense or more, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to discuss about the facts of your case during the course of this virtual and recorded proceeding that's also being live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. So please exercise your right to remain silent and let your attorney speak on your behalf. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, we have attorneys who will be representing you, and they are either from the Public Defender's Office or from our conflict defense list. Courtroom 2, who do we have first?
Position number 2.
Okay. I notice we have an interpreter here. Good morning, or good afternoon, excuse me.
They are headed to courtroom 3. They'll be logging on shortly.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
Your Honor,
And
interpretation
who's-
is to your services.
all right.
Valerie Moore,
All right.
Russian interpretation.
All right. Good afternoon, Ms. Moore. Who's going into courtroom 3?
The interpreter case, they are headed back to courtroom 3 so they can log on back there.
Okay. All right. For those of you involved in the case requiring the interpreter, please make note of your if you get the breakout message to join the breakout room. Okay. All right. Position 2, we have Courtney Bakar, accused of criminal trespass from August 3rd, 2023. Ms. Bakar, you have I'm sorry, Ms. Kim. Okay, let me continue. Ms. Bakar has been advised of her right to remain silent, and her attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Would that be correct?
It'll be me, Your Honor.
Oh,
Attorney
Mr. Judd?
Public Defender
Okay.
Judd.
All right. Okay. I'm not certain what happened just now. Okay. All right. Mr. Howard, I understand this is Ms. Bakar's 20th arrest. Does she have any open cases?
She's on probation for identity theft fraud out of Hall County, and she got theft history.
All right, thank you. Miss, is it Miss Telleria?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and what is the state's recommendation for Miss Bakar?
Yes, Your Honor. That incident was alleged to have occurred on August 3rd of this year. The officers reported in reference to a criminal trespass. They made contact with the defendant, who stated that she had permission to enter the vacant residence. They observed the defendant, Lori Hutton, Christopher Huffman, all walk around the back of the address and enter the residence through the back door. The defendant stated that she was unaware of the back door being open due to the blinds being down. The officer, it is known to the officer that the listed location, which is 4249 Rose Hall, that's Rosehall Court in South Fulton, is a vacant home and has a history of people breaking in. I saw in the report that it stated that the defendant has a warrant out of South Fulton Police Department for perjury, but I only saw that in the police report, so I'm not sure as to the accuracy of that.
Okay.
And the defendant has a history of theft-related offenses as stated by pretrial. We're asking for a $3,000 surety bond. There's currently no bond set in this case. Stay away from the address, as previously mentioned, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
I think she went to felony earlier. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Judd?
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Bakar is 35 years old. She has lived in Georgia her entire life. She's lived at her current address out in Fairburn, Georgia for about 1.5 years. So she has stable ties to the Metro Atlanta area,
Mhm.
or at least to the Georgia area. Your Honor, she attended North Clayton and Westlake High School. She ended up getting her GED. Most of her family lives here in Georgia. She lives with her mother. She has 4 kids for whom she provides primary care. Your Honor, we are asking that she be considered for a signature bond today. Miss Bakar was, she told me that she's looking for a place to purchase and that this was a house that was up for sale, which is why she's looking around the house, that there was no attempt to break and enter, that she was simply looking at a house that was potentially for sale.
Okay. Bond is set at 500 surety and to stay away from 4249 Rose Hall Court. And the next court date is going to be August 17. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Position 13.
This is Toriantis Pitts, accused of battery, family violence from August 4th, 2023. Mr. Pitts, your case number is 23 CR 4821E. You have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Judd. And understand this is his first arrest. So, Mr. Walker, what's the state's recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 2980 Jonesboro Road. They spoke with the victim, whose name is Yarkita Taylor. That is the mother of the defendant. From my understanding, the defendant was attempting to leave the home. She advised the defendant if they were to leave the house, they would not be welcome back at that time. The defendant jumped back through the window and attacked the mother. We have had contact with the mother. She said there is a history of domestic violence. She does not want the defendant to return to the home, and she wants no contact. The state is going to be asking for a $3,500 signature bond through pretrial services, 1 day anger awareness, no further contact, and a stay away. I believe the defendant is only 17, so we will be asking for the defendant to have a 9 p.m. curfew and to enroll into school or a GED program if they are already not in school.
All right. You said 17, right?
That's
Okay.
my understanding. And I believe the defendant is a high school student, so to remain in school or enroll into a GED program.
All right. And Mr. Judd, do you know if Ms. Pitts has any alternative places to stay?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Pitts is actually currently living with her sister and her sister's husband. We would simply ask that it be no further violent contact with her mother since she is 17 and is still a minor. There may be times where she needs to contact her legal guardian, which is her mother, as far as signing of paperwork or anything like that. She is a high school graduate from South Atlanta, and she is currently applying to Albany State.
Okay. And what is her sister's name, and is she over 18 or over 21?
Your Honor, her sister's name is Justia House. I'm unaware if she's over 21. I would assume that she is, but I believe I didn't ask Ms. Pitts if she was over 21.
Said that the sister is 26 years of age.
Perfect. Thank you. Bond is set at $3,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. We'll need older sister Justia House to co-sign the bond. And as soon as that bond is co-signed, Ms. Pitts may be released, but she must be occupying the same residence. Her residence has to be the same as Ms. House. She's to have no further contact with Jakelia Taylor, was it?
I think it's Yarkita Taylor.
Jakelia Taylor.
Yarkita Taylor.
Common spelling? Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Hey, where are you going, Miss Pitts? Plant yourself back in the chair. You're not done. Thank you. As I was saying, she is to stay away from 2890 Jonesboro Road, that she's to stay 200 yards away. If there are any personal belongings that need to be retrieved, Miss House or her husband can go retrieve them on behalf of Miss Pitts. She's not allowed back at the property.
Yes, Your Honor.
She has to report to pretrial once a month, and she would need to complete the one-day anger awareness program. She also needs to be compliant with continuing with high school, and she's on a curfew from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m.
And Your Honor, I believe she is a high school graduate.
Oh, I'm sorry. So she's done with school then?
That's my
Ma'am?
understanding, but I suppose she can show her
Yeah,
diploma.
no,
to
she's not done with school. No.
No, she's still in school.
Correct.
Mm.
How you spell the sister's name?
I think it's Justia House, House. Is that the correct spelling? Spelling would have to be correct. Otherwise, if not,
That's
she can't.
correct. Yes, ma'am, that's correct spelling.
Right, thank you. That would have to be the correct spelling. Otherwise, the longer the cosigner takes, the longer Miss Pitts will remain at the Fulton County Jail.
You waiving the cosign? I mean,
Yes, that'll be fine. That'll be
Alright.
fine.
Can you say, spell that first name again, Judge, for me, please?
Justia.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, last name House, House.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Miss Pitts, now you may leave. Thank you.
Position 14,
Thank you. This is Chauncey Rayford, accused of simple battery and terroristic threats and acts from August 4th, 2023. Case number 23 CR 4820B. Ms. Rayford, this is her 7th arrest. She's been advised of her right to remain silent. Her counsel is Mr. Judd. And anything else to add in terms of any open cases or probation matters? Mr. Howard?
just a 2022 probation. I didn't see any violence.
Okay,
Yeah, skip.
all right, thank you. Ms. I'm gonna get it right by the end of the calendar. Tellerian, okay.
Yes, Your Honor. The officer in this case met with the victim, DE''ANDREA, that's DeAndrea, I believe,
Mhm.
Benton, on August 4th of 2023 at 2712 Cherry Laurel Lane Southwest in Atlanta. The alleged victim in this case stated she was assaulted by the defendant for refusing to leave. She stated that the offender advised her that he was going to shoot her. The victim advised the defendant that she was recording him, at which point the offender walked up to the victim and opened his hand and slapped her very hard on her arm. The officers were able to observe the video footage confirming the testimony that the victim advised the officers of. And the officers also advised in their report that there was previously a call between the two parties to law enforcement. We were not able to make contact with this victim in this case. Accordingly, we're asking for, there was already a $2,500 bond. We're asking for that to stay the same. No further contact with the victim. Stay away from the address as previously advised. One-day anger awareness. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And we'd still like to sound for the victim at this time.
DeAndre Benton, if you are present, please unmute and start your video. All right, Mr. Judd?
Yes, Your Honor. Chauncey Rayford is 35 years old. I do want to state for the record that Ms. Rayford does not qualify for the public defender's office beyond today's representation for the purposes of bond.
Mm-hmm.
She has lived in Georgia for 11 years.
All right.
Had lived at the current address of the Cherry Laurel Lane Southwest for 2 years. That is the instant location. That is her house. She owns it. Her name is on the deed and everything. Excuse me. Your Honor, she does have stable employment, having worked with Blue Cross Blue Shield for over a year and has recently started a second job at Census Uniform. She regularly volunteers for Habitat for Humanity. And it's my understanding she's not currently on probation or parole. Your Honor, she's okay with a no further contact, but in this case, the complaining witness allegedly broke the lock off of Miss Rayford's front door. Miss Rayford told him that he needed to leave because it's Miss Rayford's house. And that is when, you know, this incident occurred. It would seem to me that this is clearly a self-defense and defense of property. But a stay away order wouldn't make sense here because it is her house, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. On the simple battery is going to be 2,000. On the terroristic threats is 1,000. That's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Ms. Rayford is to have no further contact with DeAndre Benton. And unfortunately, if Mr. Benton is still living or residing at the house, she has to stay away from 2712 Cherry Laurel Lane in Atlanta, Georgia, and she would have to go through the civil process of a dispossessory proceeding to have him removed from the property.
Yes, Your
She
Honor.
may return to the location one time only with a law enforcement officer to retrieve her personal belongings. If the officer verifies that the property is not occupied by Mr. Benton or no one is that Mr. Benton's not residing there, then she may return to the property. But if Mr. Benton is living there, then she cannot return until she gets a dispossessory order. She will need to report to pretrial once a month, attend and complete the one-day anger awareness program, no illegal drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Her next court date will be sent to her new address, which she will need to update with the court within 30 days of being released. Of course, if she returns to the original house, then the updates are necessary.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Position number 20, Simmons.
Repeat the number again.
20.
20. This is Naisha Ariel Simmons, accused of simple assault family violence from August 3rd, 2023. Her case number is 23CR4825C. Ms. Simmons, I understand this is her first arrest. Mr. Walker, any recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. In this incident, law enforcement was dispatched to 2112 Kipling Circle. They spoke to the victim, Ms. Aisha Simmons, who I believe is on the line. That is the mother of the defendant. She advised that it was a verbal altercation that turned physical, and her daughter actually assaulted her in front of the police officer, and he did observe the physical altercation take place. There currently is a $5,000 surety bond that was pre-set by the magistrate. We'll ask that that bond maintain as sit, no further contact with Ms. Simmons, and stay away from the incident location. And we did speak with the mother. I would sound for her, but she did express to our victim advocate that she is afraid of her daughter's angry outburst. So due to that, we will be asking for no contact.
Okay. Ms. McLeod, you are her appointed counsel.
I am, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And what is the defense position?
My client is only 19 years old, Your Honor. I had the opportunity to speak with Miss Aisha Simmons, who is mom, and mom told me that the whole incident was mostly verbal. She says that she is not afraid of her daughter, although she thinks some anger management would be helpful for her, but she is quite okay with her daughter coming back into the household, Your Honor. So based on that, and given the fact that this is my client's first arrest, I would ask the court to give her a signature bond so she can get out of jail. The signature bond may be conditioned on an anger management course and for her to take her GED.
All right. Ms. Aisha Simmons, would you like to address the court? You can unmute your screen. Ms. Aisha Simmons, you would need to unmute your screen.
Yes,
Ms. Simmons, my name is Judge Law. May I place you under oath?
yes,
Do you solemnly swear the information you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
yes,
Are you comfortable with Naisha being home with you?
yes. I'm comfortable with her coming back home, but she need to get some type of anger management class and be
Where else would
evaluated.
she live if she doesn't get a chance to come home?
I mean, she's been back and forth with me from her boyfriend and to my house. So I mean, she have other family members, but I don't have a problem with her coming back, but she's got to get some help with her anger.
And if she doesn't?
I mean, if she doesn't, I mean, that's fine too, but
How can that be fine? If
I
she
just
can't pick?
don't want her to be, I'm not gonna keep accepting her disrespect.
I
Like,
agree.
the disrespect, the calling me out my names, like, I mean, you 19, you want to be grown, but I never close my doors on my kids, but I just don't, she's not gonna come with that type of attitude.
Understood. Thank you, Ms. Simmons. You may mute your screen.
Okay.
Ms. Naisha Simmons, your bond is going to be $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. After today, you're to have no further contact with Aisha Simmons. You are to, once you're released, you are to report to pretrial once a month. You have to update the court with your new address within 30 days of being released. So I'm assuming, Ms. McLeod, she does not live with Aisha Simmons?
She actually lives there, Your Honor.
All
She
right.
lives with her mom.
She said that her grandmother could come sign her out.
I did think the address was the same, so let me just confirm that. Yeah, so she has to stay away from 2112 Kipling Circle in Southeast Atlanta. She may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve her personal belongings. She's to attend and complete 12 anger management classes at her expense. Those classes must begin within 60 days of being released. She's to continue with any kind of education she's in, whether it's a GED or school, and no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no alcohol. Her next court date will be sent to her new address as soon as she updates us with it.
Did you say she needed a cosigner?
No cosigner. Thank you.
I'll do that.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Position 24, right?
This is Contressa Wright, accused of failure to leave the campus or facility when directed to do so and disorderly conduct from April 20th, 2023. Ms. Wright's case is 23 CR 4816A. Ms. Wright has been advised of her right to remain silent, and her attorney is Ms. McLeod. Mhm. And this is, I understand, her fifth arrest.
Last arrest was 7 years ago.
That's what I thought. Okay,
This
Thank
was
you.
SOB jail recommendation.
understood. Mr. Walker?
Yes, Shauna, in this incident, law enforcement was dispatched, or actually was a school resource officer at Young Middle School located at 3116 Benjamin Mays Drive. They had asked Ms. Wright to leave the property of the school numerous times. I believe according to the warrant, the officer asked the defendant to leave 20 times. He actually had to escort her out of the building 3 times during this incident. This incident occurred in front of the students at that middle school, where she was acting very erratic and told the school resource officer that she was not scared of the effing police. The state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond for failure to leave campus or university and a $1,000 surety bond for the disorderly conduct. We obviously are asking for a stay away, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol, and anger awareness course.
All right, thank you. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 41 years old. She tells me that she has a 6-month-old child who is breastfed only. So she naturally is pretty concerned about her child's nutrition because she was arrested and her child does not take a bottle. So that is causing her a lot of stress at the moment. My client denies that she misbehaved at the school. She tells me that she was there. She actually had her baby with her at the time. And she was just there because her niece something had happened. There was a fight at the school and she was just going there to speak with the principal about what was happening with her niece. And she certainly denies any misbehavior. She said she was escorted off by an officer and it was all very cordial. And by the way, Your Honor, this all allegedly happened in April. My client was totally unaware that there was a warrant for her arrest. She called the police to report something and was informed that there was a warrant for her arrest. I would ask the court to give her a signature bond through the jail so she can get out as quickly as possible to get back to her young child. Nothing further, Your Honor.
I didn't see anywhere in the warrants where there was another child in her company. So I'm. a little
She had
bit-
her baby, she tells me. Her baby was under 3 months at the time. This was in April. That's what she tells
Oh,
me.
yeah, here, while holding a baby. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't see an address. The allegation is that she's residentially challenged.
No, Your Honor, she actually lives, she gave me a good address indicator.
Is that the Vining Ridge Drive?
Vining Ridge Terrace, Your Honor, yes.
Okay, oh. On the failure to leave the campus is going to be $1,000. On the disorderly conduct is $500. This is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services. Sorry, Mr. Howard.
It'd be per judge, that's fine.
Okay. She has to report to pretrial once a month. She is to stay 200 yards away from the entire campus, which is the Young Middle School at 3116 Benjamin Mays Drive location. If she returns to that school property, she will be arrested again and she will lose her signature bond. Her next court date is going to be sent to her address at the Vining. I have a Vining Ridge Drive. So, Ms. McLeod, if your
She
client.
told me Terrace, Your Honor.
Okay.
But we can ask her just to make sure.
All right. Ms. Contressa Wright, what is your correct mailing address?
It's 2915 Vining, Vining Ridge Terra 30034. That's Decatur, Georgia.
In Decatur, Georgia.
Yes.
All right. So the address on file is incorrect. We'll have to correct that. And Ms. Wright, within 72 hours next week of being released, you have to come down to the court's clerk's office and update your mailing address. If you don't have the correct address on file and you don't get your notice, you can get a bench warrant for your arrest. You understand?
Your Honor, I'm prepared to file a notice of change of address into her
Appreciate it.
file. I can do that, Your Honor, given that she has a small baby. I will just go ahead and file a notice because she qualifies to be represented by me.
Many individuals with small babies have been able to do a lot more. So you can either do it for her or she can do it on her own. I really have no preference.
I will file the address.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. Next case, please.
Your Honor, that concludes my business before the court. May I be excused?
Really? Oh, this long calendar. Okay, thank you, Ms. McLeod. I appreciate you being here. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Position number 5, Goodman.
Thank you. This is Richard William Goodman, accused of battery from August 4th, 2023. Case number is 23 CR 4805Y. This is Mr. Goodman's third arrest. Mr. Goodman, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim or Mr. Judd? Mr. Judd, okay. And Ms. Kim, let me know when the interpreter case is ready as well.
We are ready anytime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, I understand he's got a 2022 arrest. Anything pending from that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Ms. Tellerian, any recommendation for Mr. Goodman?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident is alleged to have occurred on August 4th of 2023 at 650 Cityscape Plaza Northeast. That's CITYSCAPE Plaza Northeast here in Atlanta. The defendant is alleged to have struck with his fist to the face, leaving a black eye on the right eye of the alleged victim and a laceration on top of the eyebrow and lower cheek of the alleged victim, who is Allen Davidson, ALLEN Davidson, DAVIDSON. The defendant is also alleged to have bit the victim's right hand between the index and the thumb, leaving a bite mark. Our office was able to speak with this victim in this case. We believe that the victim will be on the hearing, so we will ask that the court sound at the appropriate time. The victim advised that the two parties have been in somewhat of a relationship for approximately 6 months and reside at the aforementioned address. The victim stated that they do have somewhat of that they do not have a DV history and is not in fear of the defendant. The victim confirmed the events in the warrant, but stated that they were in a verbal dispute. He was trying to leave the location when the defendant grabbed him by the arm. The victim stated that he hit the defendant first. The victim stated everything else in the warrant is correct. The victim stated that he would like a mental health evaluation, drug evaluation, no violent contact, and for the defendant to return to their residence. Outside of that, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond. It was previously $1,100 ordered by the previous judge. We previously asked for a stay away, but it looks like the victim is asking for the defendant to be able to return. We would also ask for a 1-day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And as previously mentioned, we asked that the victim be sounded for.
All right, Alan Davidson, are you present? Mr. Davidson? Mr. Judd, excuse me.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Richard Goodman is 31 years old. Mr. Goodman has lived in Georgia his entire life. He has lived at the address of 237 Kettlewood for a few months now. Your Honor, he is a graduate of Tift County High School and attended Darton College in Albany, graduated as a paramedic major. Your Honor, he has a lot of family here in Georgia, sister, grandmother, father. He does have a 15-year-old son for whom he provides care, not primary care, but provides care for. Your Honor, it's my understanding that he and Mr. Davidson are still friends and still get along and want to, still have a friendship or relationship, whatever it may be between them. And that they do still live together. And I believe that Mr. Goodman's stuff is still at the apartment where the incident happened. And Mr. Goodman did tell me that Mr. Davidson is the one who struck first, and not to get any more into the allegations or the facts than that. But we are asking that he be considered for a signature bond today.
All right. Is Mr. Davidson reached out to this prosecutor? No? I understand he wants no further violent contact. Okay. Mr. Goodman, this is your second case in less than 2 years. Your first case is 22 CR 005-056Y, which is still pending before Judge Edie. And this is the second arrest in less than 2 years. On the battery offense, it's going to be $1,000 surety. No further violent contact with Alan Davidson. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. And I understand, well, it's not being charged as domestic violence, so I'm not quite sure. I guess they didn't get the info that the victim and the accused are living together. So it's up to the state whether they want to amend it down the road. Next court date is going to be August 17th, unless he bonds out. And then if he does bond out, then we will send him a new court date in the mail. Thank you. Oh, if we're going to reset the cases to SAP, we're going to reset both the cases. This new one, as well as 22 CR 005-056Y.
005-056Y. Yes, Your Honor.
506. Why? Judge, was that a stay away on that one?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, what's the next one? Our courtroom 3. Who do we have?
Position number 19, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moore, may I place you under oath, please? Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you translate will be the true and accurate translation with no changes or embellishments? I'm sorry, you have to unmute.
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, position number 19 is State versus Alexander Shirokov, accused of simple battery, domestic violence from August 1st, 2023. I understand this is Mr. Shirokov's first arrest.
Дело против Александра Широкова 3 августа 2023 года. Насколько я понимаю, мистер Широков, это ваш первый арест.
The defendant has a right to remain silent. Anything he discusses about the facts of the case, his statements can and will be used against him.
Вы можете охранить молчание. Все, что вы скажете, может быть адресовано против вас.
He has a right to an attorney, and representing him this afternoon is Ms. Kim.
У вас есть право на адвоката, и вас репрезентирует сегодня мисс Ким.
His case number is 23 CR 4818Y.
Ваше дело это 23 CR 48183.
This is his first arrest, and Mr. Walker, can you give me a recommendation for a bond?
Это ваш первый арест. Может ли мистер Уокер дать нам рекомендации по поводу вашего штрафа?
Yes, Your Honor. Law enforcement was dispatched at 5527 Birthday Point Drive in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Да, все случилось 5527 Burden Drive.
Where they spoke to the responding victim, Ms. Navina Barda, who advised that the defendant struck her multiple times and grabbed her by her arm.
С жертвой Невея Барда говорится о том, что он ее схватил несколько раз за руку.
I understand that this is the defendant's first arrest. However, we have spoken to the victim, and she advised that when they lived in Ukraine together, they did have a history of domestic violence.
Это первый арест, но я разговаривала с жертвой, и она сказала, когда они жили в Украине, были случаи домашнего насилия.
The state is asking for a $2,500 surety to the one count of simple battery family violence.
Штат просит $2500, это штраф за семейное насилие.
And again, due to that domestic violence history, we are asking for no further contact and a stay away from the incident location.
И потому что была история домашнего насилия, мы просим, чтобы не было дальнейшего контакта и не появляться по адресу.
And we would ask that the court sound for Ms. Barda at the appropriate time.
И мы также попросим суд, чтобы мисс Барда, видимо, сделала какое-то заявление.
Nivana Barda, are you present on the Zoom?
Мисс Нивана Барда, вы сейчас находитесь на Zoom?
Да, здравствуйте.
Yes, hello.
Oh, there she is in the pink shirt. I see her now.
Вот она в розовой кофточке, я вас вижу.
Miss Barda, do you speak English?
Мисс Барда, вы разговариваете по-английски?
So.
Well, in that case, we'll use Miss Moore.
В таком случае мы использовать будем мисс Мор, хорошо?
Miss Barda, I need to place you under oath, please.
Мисс Барда, мне нужно, чтобы вы под присягой.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Вы клянетесь, что все, что вы будете говорить, это правда, только правда, насколько вы знаете?
Клянусь.
Yes.
How long did you and Alexander live in the Ukraine?
Сколько вы с Александром жили вместе в Украине?
12 лет.
12 years.
And what was your relationship when you were living in the Ukraine?
Какие у вас были взаимоотношения, когда вы жили в Украине?
Гражданские муж и жена.
So we have a civil union, husband and wife.
And are you legally married in the United States?
Вы легально женаты в Соединенных Штатах?
Нет.
No.
Do you share any children?
Вы разделяете детей совместных? No.
Are you comfortable with him being in the same house with you?
Вы чувствуете себя комфортно, если бы он находился с вами вместе в доме?
Да, я хочу, да.
Yes.
I heard da, which is yes, then I heard no. So which one is it?
Yes. Извините, я слышала нет, вы сказали, и слышала, что вы сказали да. Так да или нет?
Да.
Yes.
Right. Anything else you'd like to add, Ms. Barda?
Мисс Барда, что-нибудь еще вы хотели бы добавить?
Нет, спасибо.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Хорошо.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is, he was born 77, so I'm assuming his age is 45 or 46.
Он был
I
рожден в
leave you to do the math.
1977, я так предполагаю, ему 45-46 лет сейчас.
And Your Honor, they have been here in Georgia for 3 months.
Они были здесь, в Джорджии, 3 месяца.
And they are here because of some kind of like UN program where they are from Ukraine.
И здесь они находятся по какой-то программе, которая для украинцев.
They are going through a lot of emotional challenges right now because Ukraine is in war.
Они проходят через много эмоциональных вызовов, потому что Украина сейчас находится в войне.
And they are only they have each other. That's all. They don't have anybody else.
И у них только, они только друг для друга, у них больше никого здесь нету.
Mr. Shirokov wants to have continuous relationship and no further violent contact is very important to him.
Мистер Широков хочет продолжать взаимоотношения, и для него семейное насилие это с этим не сходится. Он не хочет это продолжать.
We would like to request for a signature on bond.
Мы бы хотели попросить штраф под подпись.
Bond is set at $5,000. It's a signature bond through pretrial services.
Ваш штраф это $5,000, это перед судом.
He has to report to pretrial once a month and comply with the following conditions.
Он должен репортировать 1 раз в месяц и при таких условиях.
No contact with Nevena Barda.
Никакого контакта с Невеной Баргой.
He is to stay 200 yards away from her. That's the length of 2 football fields.
Он должен оставаться 200 ярд от нее. Это 2 футбольных поля.
He is to not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner.
Он не может с ней коммуницировать никакими методами или формами.
He may return. Oh, he's to stay away from 5327. Was it 5527? Bridgepoint Drive in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yes.
Он также должен находиться от локации 5527 в Альфарете, Бриджпойнт. Это ваш домашний бывший адрес.
It's 5527.
Это 5527.
He may return to the location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings.
Он может прийти в эту локацию только 1 раз с полицейским, чтобы забрать все свои вещи.
Within 30 days of being released, he must update the court with his new address.
Через 30 дней он должен сказать суду его новый адрес.
And while he is out on a signature bond, he will attend and complete a 24-week domestic violence program.
И потому что он находится на штрафе под подпись, он должен посетить 24-недельный курс, это по семейному насилию.
Within 60 days of being released, he will inform pretrial services where he is attending those classes.
Через 60 дней после того, как его освободят, он должен посетить вот эту программу и узнать все детали.
If Mr. Shirokov violates the no contact and stay away provisions, he could be arrested for aggravated stalking, which carries no bond for up to 3 months.
Если мистер Шаков нарушит вот эти условия, вы не можете общаться никакими методами, то тогда его заберут, и это не будет подлежать никакому бонду на 3 месяца. Никакому штрафу, будете в тюрьме.
Ms. Barda, he has to comply with the no contact or stay away. If you try to reach out to him and he communicates with you, you're only putting his freedom in jeopardy.
Мисс Барда, помните, пожалуйста, вы не можете с ним общаться. Если вы будете инициировать общение, то вы только хуже ему делаете. То есть вы его свободу, забираете у него свободу.
Ms. Brada, do you have any questions about the bond that's been set against Mr. Alexander?
Мисс Барда, есть ли у вас вопросы по поводу штрафа, который был сделан против мистера Александра?
Он может его не платить? Я не знаю. Я не знаю.
Can he not pay that bond?
I don't think you understand the bond.
Я не думаю, что вы полностью поняли этот штраф, что это означает.
He doesn't have to pay for the bond now, but if he violates the condition, he'll be arrested and the next time he will have to pay.
Он не должен платить это сейчас, но если он нарушит правила, вот эти, которые мы прочитали, тогда он будет платить, и тогда он лишится свободы.
And that signature bond could be a surety bond or a cash bond.
И тогда вот этот вот штраф становится наличным и оплачиваемым.
And pre-trial, he will be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and alcohol. He's not to consume any illegal drugs, not to consume any alcohol, and he cannot possess any weapons or firearms.
So what kind of interpreter need?
Just a minute.
Также мистер Широков не может использовать никаких наркотиков, никакого алкоголя, и он будет тестироваться в разные дни, возможно, поэтому никакого алкоголя, наркотиков, и также он не может носить никакого оружия.
And when Mr. Shirokov reports to pretrial, he will bring a friend who can speak both Russian and English if he has difficulty speaking in English.
И если у мистера Широкова будет слушание, судебное заседание, он должен взять с собой друга, кого-то, кто разговаривает и по-английски, и по-русски.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
All right. Спасибо, Ms. Moore. До свидания.
You're very welcome, Judge Hill. And can I be excused at this moment?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next case, please. Courtroom 2. Who do we have?
Position 16, Mr. Robinson.
This is Michael Robinson, okay, position number 16. With that, or Cody, is that Cody Robinson? Which one do we have?
It's Michael Robinson.
All right, got the right one. Thank you. And Mr. Michael Robinson has been accused of theft by taking from November 9th, 2021. This case number is 23 CR 4822J. Ms. Tellerian, do you have Mr. Michael Robinson's GCIC?
Are you asking for the specific cases that I have listed under
No,
there?
just whether you have his arrest record if he has one.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. This defendant was charged with one count of theft by taking at the Texaco Food Mart located at 2100 Metropolitan Parkway in Atlanta on November 9th of 2021. The officers in this case reported to the aforementioned location. They walked in and they were told that basically the defendant walked into the location and told another employee that he was supposed to be working on that date. He was in fact already previously fired from that location. He walked behind the cash register for a brief moment while the other employee was assisting a customer. He then reached under the register and took money out of a pouch. He took approximately $1,000 and put it into his pocket. He walked out of the front of the store and told the employee that was still there that he'd be back soon. He ended up fleeing on foot. There is video footage of this incident. The defendant has 20 cycles, numerous parole violations, one of which is from July of 2023, another one from February of 2023, another one from June of 2019. He has another one from 2018, 2017, 2016, and other offenses, including battery, cruelty to children, and robbery. The defendant currently has no bond set. We're asking for a $3,000 surety bond, stay away from the address as previously mentioned, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Robinson is 53 years old and he was born and raised here in Georgia. He has a strong ties to the community. He is residing with his parents right now. And also, Your Honor, he has been employed at DeKalb County Recycle to clean up things. However, he's afraid that he may have lost that job because he's been arrested and he has been incarcerated quite a bit. He graduated from high school successfully, and he claims that he worked and that was for his wage. And we would like to request for a signature on bond. That's it, Your Honor. Thanks.
All right. Bond's going to be set at 1,500. It's a signature bond through the jail. He is to stay away from Texaco Food Mart and at 2100 Metropolitan Parkway. He needs to make sure that his address is current with us. If he fails to show up in court when we summon him to appear, the bond will be revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next position is 15, Cody Robinson.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Cody Robinson.
This is State versus Cody Robinson, 23 CR 4801G. Mr. Robinson's recently been arrested on criminal trespass charges from August 3rd, 2023. Mr. Robinson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. I understand Mr. Walker, he has in excess of 70 arrest cycles. I would really just be interested in the bond amount right now.
Yes, Your Honor. Of course, the state is going to be asked for a stay away from the incident location 318 East Paces Ferry, which is Cafe Agora. We're asking for $1,000 surety, no contact with the owner. His first name is spelled M-E-H-M-E-T. Last name is O-Z-E-L-C-I. The owner just reported to the officer that this defendant has been breaking into the patio area of this restaurant for the last 3 months. He's been defecating, he's been ruining their property, and it's become quite a nuisance. As the court has recognized, he has quite the extensive history. So we believe that $1,000 surety and a stay away is more than reasonable.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client is 55 years old and currently he's residentially challenged. And he is using the mailing address of Salvation Army at Lucky Street. He was born and raised here in Georgia. At this point, he has no financial resources to make any bond. He graduated from high school. He does not have any other issues. We would like to request for signature on bond. Thank you.
All right. Bond's going to be set at $2,000 surety. And his next court date is August 17th. And when we reset the case to August 17th, we will also address this other open case, and that is 22 CR 008236G. To stay 500 yards away from the Cafe Agora, no contact with Mr. Mehmet Ziskli. I'm so sorry, Mr. Walker, I'm just going to butcher that last name, but no illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. Thank you. Next case, please.
Position 23, Worthy.
Hello.
Hello. This is Justin Worthy, case number 23 CR 4819Y. Mr. Worthy was accused of loitering and prowling on August 4th, 2023. Mr. Worthy, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Walker, this is the 17th arrest cycles. What's the state's position on bond?
Yes, in this case, law enforcement was dispatched by the alarm company of Miller Ale House. They were greeted by the defendant on the patio, who advised that he was there to get a cocktail. However, it was about 3 a.m. This particular restaurant closes at 11 p.m. There currently is a $10,000 surety that's been preset. I'm showing that the defendant's under a suspended sentence for loitering, I believe, in 23 CR 003966G.
Mhm.
And then I'm showing another case that he's on probation for. I believe that's a stalking case, 23 CR 001197. Based upon his history, him being under a suspended sentence and a probated sentence for stalking, we're asking that the bond is maintained as set and to stay away from the incident location of Miller L House.
All right, Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client is 46 years old and he has no, actually 36 years old, I apologize. He is qualified for public defender's services because he has been unemployed for the last 3 months and his financial resources are almost nothing right now. So we would like to request for signature on bond. There's no way he's going to be able to make $10,000 good bond right now. He was born and raised here in Georgia. And Your Honor, he is also going through Atlanta Tech School to complete his GED. And that's it, Your Honor. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Mr. Worthy, you've got a prior arrest for loitering and prowling in June of 2023 when you were released on July 8th. You've got a prior arrest for stalking, loitering and prowling on February 23rd, 2023. That's just your third loitering and prowling charge in 1 year. Not to mention then your arrest in 2022 and a trespass in 2021. Your bond is going to be $5,000 surety bond. You are to stay away from the Miller Ale House, and your next court date is going to be August 17th. Thank you.
And Your Honor, I'm sorry, I don't believe I put the address on the record. It's 10750 Davis Drive.
10757 Davis Drive in
Yes, Your
Alpharetta?
Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Judge, what was that bond amount again?
5,000 surety. Stay away from the Miller Ale House at Davis Drive in Alpharetta. Next court date's August 17th.
Position 1, Alexander.
This is Robert Earl Alexander, accused of willful obstruction of an officer and possession and use of drug-related objects from August 4th of this year, case number 23 CR 4803Y. Mr. Alexander, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Judd, and this is his 7th arrest. Anything else to add, Mr. Howard?
Last arrest was 04 battery, DV dismissed, and he's homeless.
All right, thank you. Ms. Telleray?
Yes, Your Honor. This offense is alleged to have occurred on August 4th of 2023 at 76 Wall Street Southwest in Atlanta. The officer in this case was alleged to have observed the defendant lower his mouth from a glass pipe. As they approached this defendant, he got up and began to walk away. They told the defendant to stop. The defendant stopped and sat on the ledge near the steps. The officer then gave commands for him to drop his bag and open his hands. Inside of his left hand, the officer noticed a burnt clear glass pipe with copper wire. The officer then repeated his commands to stop, and the defendant took off on foot. The officer pursued him and ultimately placed him in custody. His arrests show a history of issues with drugs and alcohol, including possession of alcohol under legal age, possession of cannabis, possession of, multiple cases like that. I'm sorry, he has a DUI charge as well, possession of firearm during an attempt to commit felonies, armed robbery, and he has a battery conviction, family violence from 2004. We're asking for a $1,000 signature bond through pretrial services. Stay away from the address, as previously mentioned, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
And the bond's going to be $2,000 signature bond through the jail, $1,000 on each count. And Mr. Alexander, if you get arrested again the next time, this $2,000 signature bond will become a surety bond or a cash bond. Make sure that you keep in touch with your attorney to find out when's your next court date. Thank you.
Wait,
No
I apologize, Your
drugs.
Honor.
Thank you.
I
Go ahead.
apologize. Are you ordering or considering the no drugs, alcohol, weapons, or are you deciding against?
I was going to add that, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position 3, Banks.
This is Andrew Banks, case number 23 CR 004-824G. Mr. Banks is accused of simple battery, domestic violence on August 3rd, 2023. Mr. Banks, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Judd. I've got 20 arrest cycles. I couldn't recall if there was any violence.
2021 battery, 2015 simple battery conviction.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tellerian, do you have a bond recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. We do have a bond recommendation. This incident was alleged to have occurred on August 3rd, 2023 at 5021 Old National Highway at the Best American Hotel. The officers made contact with the alleged victim in this case, Stephanie Bonds. That's STEPHANIE BAUGHNS, and advised that her and the defendant were arguing at her job. The victim then walked away from the defendant to avoid confrontation. The defendant later came back to pick her up from work and take her home. He then left again and returned and stated, you thought I forgot what you did, and threw her into a corner. The victim grabbed a knife and stabbed the defendant in his side and told him to let her go. The defendant blocked the door, and the victim warned him that she would stab him again, but he refused to move, and thereafter she stabbed him in his arm. The defendant advised officers that he in fact was not stabbed. This defendant has 20 cycles starting in 2008. My office unfortunately was unable to make contact with the victim in this case. It is of note that the defendant here has a family violence conviction from 2011, as well as a family violence from 2015, a simple battery from 2015, or another battery from 2017. He has other offenses he's been charged with, such as armed robbery, resisting, violations of probation on multiple cases, possession of a knife during a felony, possession of cocaine, resisting and abandonment of a dependent child. We're asking for a $4,000 surety bond, no further contact, 1-day anger awareness, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and stay away from the aforementioned address. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Judd?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Andrew Banks is 34 years old. I do want to state for the record that he does not qualify for the public defender's office beyond today's representation for the purposes of bond. Your Honor, he's lived in Georgia his entire life. He's lived at his current address here in Atlanta, 30311 zip code, for around 9 years. He graduated from BM Darrell High School here in Atlanta off of Campbellton Road, so he's an Atlanta native. His whole family is here. He lives with his mother and daughter currently. He has 3 children, 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and 4-year-old daughters. The 4-year-old daughter does live with him. Your Honor, he does regularly volunteer to feed the homeless with his church. It's my understanding he has no failure to appears, or at least not to his recollection. He has no problem with a stay away order from the incident location and no further contact with the complaining witness. Mr. Banks does maintain that he was the one that was stabbed. He denies having done anything to initiate that stabbing, and that he's the one who decided not to press charges, and that's when the police decided to arrest him, even though he was the one with injuries. We are asking that he be considered for a signature bond today, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Bond is set at $2,500. It's a surety bond. No further contact with Stephanie Bonds, to stay away from 5021 Old National Highway in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no weapons, and no alcohol. And the next court date is going to be August 17th.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Position 4, Dan Ridge.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what position that was.
4.
Thank you.
This is Marvin Dandridge, accused of disorderly conduct from August 4th, case number 23 CR 4812Y. Mr. Dandridge has got 5 arrest cycles, and Mr. Dandridge, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Ms. Kim. Mr. Walker, any recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. Law enforcement was dispatched to the Quick Trip located at 11700 Haynesbridge Road in Alpharetta. They spoke to the clerk at that Quick Trip, who advised the defendant was causing a scene. He was acting in a very tumultuous way, threatening to rob the store and shoot up the place, if you will. He actually frightened customers to the point where there actually were 2 female customers hiding in the restroom when the officer arrived at the scene. Based on his sister and the facts, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond to the 1 count disorderly conduct, stay away from the incident location, and no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is only 19 years old young, and he is currently gainfully employed at racetrack, and he has been working there as a manager, and he is responsible for paying for the rent for him and his baby mother and 1 son who is only 2 months old. And he is also going to college, Atlanta Technical School for IT, cybersecurity. He is doing his last year, Your Honor. And we would like to request for signature on bond. We do understand there are some open cases. However, we still ask for signature on bond. If Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, we ask for a $1,000 maximum bond. Thanks.
Okay. It's a $2,000 surety bond. The next court date is going to be August 17th. And at the same time, we're also going to address this other open case, 23 CR 003-410Y. And both cases will be addressed to the next SAP calendar. Stay away from the QT at on Haynesbridge Road in Alpharetta, Georgia. And no illegal drugs, no weapons, no alcohol. Thank you.
Position 6, Griffin.
And could you repeat that name again?
Position number 6, Griffin.
Okay. This is Sanchez Griffin, accused of battery, family violence from August 4th, case number 23 CR 4806F. Mr. Griffin, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Judd. And I understand this is his 6th arrest. Mr. Howard, anything else to add?
No.
Right. Ms. Tellerian?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident is alleged to have occurred on August 5th of 2023 at 1890 Myrtle Drive Southwest in Atlanta. I don't have any more information pertaining to this, but on the beginning of the report, it stated that the officers arrived at the above location regarding an incident. Regarding a dispute involving a weapon. So the case might get bumped up, but I don't have any additional information for this court regarding that portion of the report. They met with a victim who was crying and in distress. That is Belissa Jones, Belissa Jones. She advised that the defendant had just assaulted her. The two were arguing and the victim made her way to the bedroom. The defendant pushed her to the floor and started to punch her on the back of her head. The victim stated that her friend was able to call 911 and the defendant fled the scene. She advised that the defendant and the victim had been staying together for over a year and in a relationship for that same time frame. EMS checked her out and advised she had bruising to her back and shoulder. We attempted to make contact and were unsuccessful. We would still ask for the court to sound for the victim at the appropriate time. The defendant has 5 arrest cycles, including simple battery and multiple VOPs. We asked for a $6,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, 1-day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and stay away from the address as previously mentioned.
Ms. Jones, are you on the Zoom? I don't think I see anyone with the name Jones or otherwise. All right, Mr. Judd.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Sanchez Griffin, first off, for the record, he does not qualify for the services of the public defender beyond today's representation for the purposes of bond.
Okay.
Mr. Griffin is 31 years old. He is an Atlanta native. He's lived in Georgia his entire life, or at least Metro Atlanta native. He is a graduate of McNair High School in Decatur. He's lived at his current address on Myrtle Drive for 4 to 5 years. He has a lot of family here in Georgia, Your Honor. His mother, brother, sister, aunts, uncles, cousins. He has 3 daughters, an 11-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 9-year-old for whom he provides care. He has had his current job where he works in the airport for about 2 months. So he does have a stable employment. Your Honor, it's my understanding that he does refute all the allegations, or denies all the allegations, and that he and Miss Jones are still in a relationship. It's my understanding that they still want to be together, though in honesty to the court, I've had no conversation with Miss Jones, but that is Mr. Griffin's understanding of the situation. So we would ask that he be considered for a signature bond today. And since the incident location in Myrtle Drive is his address, we would ask that there not be a stay away order put in place.
Okay. Bond is set at $2,000. That's going to be a surety bond. No contact with Belissa Jones. Stay away from 1890 Myrtle Drive, apartment 205 in Atlanta, Georgia, as long as Miss Jones still resides at the property. He may return to the location one time only to either retrieve his belongings or to verify that Miss Jones doesn't reside there anymore, then he can return to the property. But if she's still occupying the premises, if her stuff is still there, then he cannot return. He may file a civil claim through dispossessory court and have her evicted from the property, but he'll have to go through that process. No drugs, no alcohol, and no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no firearms, no weapons. Next court date is going to be August 17th.
And Your Honor, just for clarity's sake for Mr. Griffin, that one-time return, that would be with law enforcement?
That is with law enforcement, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position number 7, Eric Jones.
Okay. Eric Jones is accused of battery, domestic violence in case number 23 CR 004807J. Mr. Jones, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Judd. This is an alleged incident from January 1st, 2023. I understand Mr. Jones has got this is his 20th arrest cycle. He's got 20 arrests. Mr. Howard?
20 total. You got a 2018 battery DV. Last arrest was 2020 for trespass.
What was the disposition of the battery DV?
I'll look it up. I don't know. I'll look it up.
All right.
Your Honor, it appears that it's a conviction where he served 24 months probation and 3 days incarcerated for the 2018 charge, if that's what he's referring to. It was a conviction in 2020.
Do you know what jurisdiction?
I'm not sure. I think it was, I'd have to double check, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Howard, look it up. What is your bond recommendation for this case?
Yes, Your Honor. This case will almost definitely be upgraded to felony. It hasn't been done so yet with my office, but I believe that's the track it's going to go on based on the previous conviction for a domestic violence battery case. The officers in this case met with the victim, who advised that the defendant had assaulted her on January 1st of 2023. The location of the incident is 210 Bowen Circle, Bowen Circle, Southwest Atlanta. The victim advised he was assaulted by his live-in boyfriend. The victim's name is Kobe Varner, Kobibarner, and that's V as in Victor. The victim stated that the two parties were having a verbal dispute. During the dispute, the victim stated that he was attacked. A physical struggle ensued, wherein the victim advised he was struck several times before being choked. I did have my office speak with the victim at one point, who advised that the two parties have been together for 4.5 years and reside at the aforementioned address, and that they do not have a DV history, and that he is not in fear of the defendant. He stated that since this incident has happened, there have been no further incidents. And he stated that in February of 2023, they went to counseling, which has helped them a great deal. He stated that he would like contact with the defendant and for him to be able to return to the residence. But the officers in this case did observe a small cut to his right shoulder. And because of that, we're asking for, outside of the offenses that were listed, the defendant has 10 cycles in North Carolina, starting as early as 1999, 1 in Michigan, as well as 8 in Georgia. These cases involve assault on a female, false information to law enforcement, assault with a deadly weapon, possession of controlled substance, the battery as previously mentioned, retail fraud, which is a conviction, injury to personal property, which is a conviction. We're asking for $15,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, 1-day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. We'd like to sound for the victim, and we'd also ask for a stay away from the address.
And that's DeKalb County.
DeKalb? Okay, thank you. Mr. Kobe Varner, I do see you on the Zoom. If you'd like to address the court, you'll need to unmute your screen. Okay. Mr. Varner, my name is Judge Lal. Are you the Kobe Varner involved with Eric Jones?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right. If you'd like to address the court, I'll need to place you under oath. Any objections? Okay. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right. What would you like to tell us in terms of whether you're comfortable having him back in the same household?
Yes, Your Honor. I am comfortable having him back in the household. Mr. Jones, my partner, Eric, has had some challenges with substance abuse in the past. He attended the sober living program for 60 days during our relationship. Where he got, it was an interdisciplinary program where he learned some life skills. He got counseling for some mental health issues that he struggled in the early part of his life.
Your Honor,
Since
if we
then,
could avoid any mention of mental health in the
All
public
right.
recordings.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Varner, if we can avoid any issues with medical or mental health, this is a HIPAA violation if you start exploring his medical history on this live stream and public record.
Understood. My apologies, Your Honor.
Just tell me why you feel you feel comfortable to have him back in the home, given the nature of the violence that I'm reading from the warrant.
Sure. In addition to the couples counseling, he has done individual counseling as well. Since then, Your Honor, he's also returned to school to further his education, completed a program to get his master's license, and he's actually an instructor with Paul Mitchell the School. So he has, instead of regressing, he has made progress, lots of progress, and he's actually pursuing additional education now. In addition to that, Your Honor, I have not experienced, since the incident in January and post the counseling sessions, I have not experienced any degree of violence from him, either physically or otherwise.
All right, thank you. Mr. Judd?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Eric Jones is 40 years old. Your Honor, he has lived in, well, I do want to state for the record, he does not qualify for the services of the public defender beyond today's purposes of bond.
Okay.
Your Honor, he's lived in Georgia for the past 10 years. He's lived at his current address in Bowen Circle for around 4 years. Excuse me, as we heard Mr. Kobe tell the court, he is pursuing higher education. He has a lot of family here in Georgia with his mother, his sister, his aunt, and a few cousins. Your Honor, it's my understanding that he has a stable job, around 3 years as an instructor with the Paul Mitchell School of Atlanta. And as we heard from Mr. Kobe, that the complaining witness is comfortable with Mr. Jones being in his presence, still being in a relationship, still being at the home. We are asking that he be considered for a signature bond and there be no stay away order, and instead of a no further contact, for it to instead be a no further violent contact.
Mr. Eric Jones, I just want to put you on notice that because you've got a prior conviction for battery domestic violence from 2018 in DeKalb County, Georgia, The prosecution from state court has the absolute right to have this case upgraded to a felony matter. Any prior convictions for battery domestic violence makes any subsequent arrest automatically a felony charge. So I want to make sure that you understand that. Second thing, also important is the fact that the public defender's office is going to withdraw from representation. So you will have to hire your own attorney in order to combat this particular situation. Your bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, and the signature bond will remain as long as you comply with the following conditions. No further violent contact with Kobe Barner. You may return to the Bowen Circle location. Within 30 days of being released on signature bond, you are to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. I don't know if you've ever experienced a program from your prior conviction, but will be certainly a beneficial refresher course. It's a 24-week program. You would have to attend those classes every week at your expense, and they must begin within 30 days of being released. You're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you are not to possess or own any firearms. Your report to pretrial in Fulton County once a month, excuse me. So by your second visit, you must confirm that you have enrolled in a FVIP program. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position number 21, Simpson.
This is State versus Archie Lee Simpson, accused of simple battery domestic violence from November 29th, 2022. Mr. Simpson's case number is 23 CR 4809J. And Mr. Simpson, your attorney will be Ms. Kim.
Yes.
Right, thank you. I understand Mr. Simpson has 39 arrest cycles. What about his recent arrests or convictions, Mr. Howard?
2020 suspended license, 2019 DUI, 2013 resisting officer.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Mr. Walker?
This is Mr. Simpson, correct?
This is Archie Lee Simpson. Yes.
I believe he's also being held on possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. I'm not sure if he went.
Yeah, I think he went to court for that earlier.
Yeah, felony first appearance. I'm not sure of the outcome of that, but I did want to bring it to the court's attention. In this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 1905 Fort Valley Drive. They spoke to the victim, a Miss Dina Curry, who advised that her mother's ex-boyfriend, who is the defendant, threw a small barbecue grill at her. We will be asking for a $3,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, Dina Curry, and to stay away from the incident location. As we know, anytime that defendant has a firearm in domestic violence cases, deaths are exponentially increased. He's currently being held on firearm by a convicted felon, so there is concern for the safety of the victim. So that is the reason for the stay away and then no further contact.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is actually gainfully employed, and he's also taking care of 7-year-old granddaughter as well, because his mother was killed not that long ago. And we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond. This happened a very long time ago, and he actually denies that he was even there. From June 2022, there has been no contact whatsoever with Dina Curry, and he does not even go to 1905 Fort Valley at all, where her mother is residing. So they broke up and they have not had any relationship, and he is kind of shocked to even be arrested for this because he was not there at all. We would like to request for a signature on bond. Thank you.
All right. Bond set at $1,000. It's a surety bond. Next court date's August 17th. No contact with Dina Curry. Stay away from 1905 Fort Valley Road in Southwest Atlanta. I think it was Fort Valley Drive in Southwest Atlanta. And no illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position number 22, White.
This is Carlton White, accused of battery from August 2nd, 2023. The case number is 23 CR 004815F. Mr. White, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim. Mr. Howard?
His 10th arrest. Last was in May for shoplifting. I didn't see any violent convictions, or at least in the last 10 years. That's it.
All right. Looks like he's got multiple theft by shoplifting convictions. 2021, 2017, 2009.
2009, 2021, and 2017. I think those were arrests only. But they were shoplifting.
Okay. And then 2023 was the last shoplifting arrest.
And when you said
In May,
21,
correct.
Okay.
referring to the 23 CP 220763, the open case.
I got
Yes.
the
Okay, well, he has that open. I believe it's a battery and a theft. But in this case, law enforcement was dispatched to a convenience store located at 3425 Cascade Road. They spoke with the manager at that location, whose name is Keith. I will spell his last name, Greaves. He advised that the defendant came up to him and said, "Do you remember me?" And then began to punch him. The victim actually fell to the ground backwards, causing cuts and bruises, and he possibly broke his wrist. This defendant is a previous shoplifter at this location, and it's the state's position that, based upon the statement he made to the manager, he was acting out of retaliation to the manager for having him criminally trespassed and arrested for shoplifting at this location in the past. There currently is a $10,000 surety bond that was preset by the magistrate. We'll ask that remain as said, no further contact with Keith Greaves, and to stay away from the incident location, no weapons, drugs, or alcohol.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 60 years old, born and raised here in Georgia, Your Honor. He is gainfully employed as Fat Santa Graphic as an apparel salesperson, and he graduated from high school as well. We are not going to be representing him since he's not qualified. So we're just representing it for the purpose of bond hearing only. And we would like to request for a signature on bond, and yet if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond, even though there has been no violence for the last 10 years, we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond. Thank you.
he should be in felony today. I'm waiting to see if he got a bond yet.
He hasn't been seen over there yet. I just got him.
Okay.
Bond is set at $5,000 is the surety bond. Next court date is August 17th. To stay 500 yards away from the business location at 3425 Cascade Road. No contact with Keith Greaves. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Position 9, no.
Position 9. This is State versus Desmond Lowe, middle initial is K, accused of reckless driving and improper and erratic lane change from June 26, 2021. Case number 23 CR 4810E. Mr. Howard, I understand this is his 8th arrest. Any prior traffic matters on your record?
I see a 2014 speeding, reckless driving, no law.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tellerian, any objection to a signature bond?
No, Your Honor, we would just ask for a stay away from the incident location, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And just for the record, the offense date was June 26th of 2021. The defendant posted a video of himself riding in a big crowd on an ATV. And the video he posted was from the perspective of a person that was the one driving the ATV. He is seen on the video riding on the wrong side of the street. facing a big crowd, disregarding traffic and stoplights while filming. But we're not opposed to the signature bond.
All right. It's a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. He'll report to pretrial once a month. No driving unless he's got a valid driver's license, proper registration, and adequate insurance. And of course, driving in compliance with the rules of the road. Next court date will be sent to his current address. If he changes his address, make sure the court is informed of the change. Thank you.
That's per judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's the stairway location?
Oh, there's no stay away. I don't.
Oh, okay. And then it's 1,000 on each
Yeah.
judge.
Signature bonds with pretrial. Thank you.
And Your Honor, if I may, for the record, Mr. Lowe stated that he, after today, will be going forward with a private attorney and does not want the representation of the public defender's office.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Position 10, Maddox.
All right. Chancellor. Excuse me. Chancellor Maddox is accused of battery domestic violence from August 4th, 2023. Case number 23 CR 4811E. I understand this is Mr. Maddox's 18th arrest. Mr. Maddox, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Judd. Mr. Howard?
He got a 2015 stalking first offender. He got an open theft of services in Superior Court. And a 2022, we got a couple of probation violations.
All right, Ms. Tellerian?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident was alleged to have occurred on August 4th of 2023 at 7686 Brazos, Brazos Trail, South Fulton. The officers in this case made contact in reference to a physical dispute with Shek Artion, that's SHACKARTION, Dillard, DILLARD, who advised that the defendant made entry into the property and struck the victim in his face with a balled fist, as well as biting the victim in the chest. The victim also advised the defendant through a pair of slippers that struck him in the face as well. The victim began to fight back to prevent further injury. A witness also advised that the defendant entered through the garage and went upstairs to the victim's room and kicked the door down and began fighting the victim. The defendant advised that he lives at the residence and that the two are currently dating. The officers also spoke to the defendant's mom, who advised that the defendant lives at the residence that was previously mentioned. My office was able to make contact with the victim. The victim advised that they will be on Zoom, so we'd ask that the court sound for the victim at the appropriate time. The victim advised that the two parties were together for 5 years and that they have not been together for almost 2 years. The victim stated that they had a domestic violence incident around 3 years ago, which resulted in them both getting arrested, which was ultimately dismissed. The victim confirmed the events of the warrant, but stated that he was not in the shower, which I don't believe that I saw that on the warrant, but the victim did tell our office that. He stated that that the defendant got into the residence from the garage and kicked down his bedroom door. The victim stated that there was another false statement in the report, which is that the defendant lives with him, which was not true. The victim stated he is not in fear of the defendant and he didn't hit him back because he didn't want to get arrested. The victim stated that he wants no further contact and that he wants the defendant to stay away from his residence, which was the address as previously mentioned. Part of the defendant's arrest cycle includes a stalking offense in 2015, which he was able to obtain first offender on, damage to property, affray, another criminal damage to property, BOP, FTA, robbery, and other theft-related offenses. We're asking for a $5,000 bond, no further contact, stay away, 1 day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, weapons, and for the court to sound for the victim. Thank you.
Mr. Dillard, if you're on the Zoom, this would be a good time to chime in. All right, Mr. Judd, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Chancellor Maddox is 26 years old. Mr. Maddox does not qualify for the continued representation by the public defenders after today's representation for the purposes of bond. Your Honor, he's lived at the same address out in Jonesboro, Georgia, for about 15 years. He is a graduate of Mundus Mill in Jonesboro. He lives with his parents currently, and his entire family is here, cousins, aunts, uncles, siblings, parents, everyone. So he has very strong ties to the community. Your Honor, he has a very stable work environment. He has been working as an accountant for the tax group for about 7 years. So very stable job. It's my understanding that he's not currently on probation or parole. The complaining witness is his ex, and Mr. Maddox has absolutely no intention of ever seeing him again. He is fine with a stay away order. He's fine with a no further contact order. We are asking that he be considered for a signature bond, though.
All right. Bond's going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Shakerton Dillard. Make sure Shakerton Dillard. Stay away from the 7686 Brazos Trail in South Fulton. No illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms, and no alcohol. Mr. Maddox is to also enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 60 days of being released, and he will attend those classes at his expense. Since he doesn't reside there anymore, I'm not quite certain whether he does or doesn't. The warrant's very conflicting as to that. I'm not going to permit him a one-time visit to that location. So there's no one-time visit. He is to stay away from the Brazos Trail location.
Yes, Your Honor.
The DVIP program, and he's to report to, this is a surety bond. So disregard the DVIP requirement.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
How much was that?
3,000 surety. Next court date's August 17th.
Position 12, Overton.
Kristen Overton is case number 23 CR 4817E, is accused of battery from August 4th, 2023. Mr. Overton, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Judd. I understand there is an open case in Spalding County. Would that be correct, Mr. Howard?
Appears to be. On probation for felony obstruction out of Clayton County. 2019.
Okay, go ahead.
2019 battery DV, second subsequent offense. That was a conviction. 2017 failure to appear. The first battery DV conviction was 2015. Got a 2015 simple battery DV conviction. In 2012 probation, failure to appear. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Tellery?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident was alleged to have occurred on August 4th of 2023 at 177 Maury Ave, Moury Ave, Southeast Atlanta. The parties in this case got into a verbal argument. The defendant grabbed the victim, Carolyn Rhodes, CarolynRhodes, by her neck and left visible scratches on her chest and arm. The parties have lived together at the above address for around a year. This case will ultimately end up becoming a felony offense due to the prior family violence battery convictions, as stated previously on the record. The defendant here has 16 cycles outside of the batteries that were already advised of. He also has charges for violations of probation, FTAs, simple battery, other battery charges as well, aggravated assault against law enforcement, theft by shoplifting, another simple assault. And based on the fact that this case will get upgraded to a felony, all the other prior violent offenses, we're asking for a $15,000 surety bond, no further contact with the victim, 1 day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, or weapon. And we ask that the court sound for the victim at the appropriate time and to stay away from the aforementioned address.
Okay. Carolyn Rhodes, are you present? No, she's not. Miss Turlin, this particular charge, I'm looking at the warrant and it does say that they don't share children, but they live together, but the charge is listed as battery, not battery family violence, although they do have the code section in there. So I'm not sure if the state plans to amend this accusation.
Yes, Your Honor. We're planning on amending it.
Okay,
It just wasn't able, it was submitted, it just wasn't able to be approved by my office to have it upgraded to the felony and changed over yet.
Okay.
It will be upgraded to felony family violence battery.
so it cannot be upgraded to a felony unless and until that accusation is properly amended.
Yes,
Is
of
this
course.
position 13, Your Honor? Because it is a battery family violence.
This is position 12,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kristen Overton.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Judd?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Christian Overton is 31 years old. Mr. Overton does not qualify for the continued representation of the Public Defender's Office beyond today's representation purely for the purposes of bond. Your Honor, he has lived in Georgia his entire life. He's lived at the same address out in Riverdale, Georgia for about 12 years. In fact, he attended Riverdale High School. He ended up completing his GED. He lives with family. He lives with his aunt. And then as far as family that lives in Georgia, it's his aunt and his children. He does have a 3-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter for whom he provides care. Your Honor, he does have a stable job with a staff zone temp agency. He works for the agency, not with the agency, if that makes sense. He's not one of the temporary.
Okay, he's employed by the agency.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
And he has had that job for 1.5 years. So he's very stable within his community, and he does volunteer regularly with his local library. Your Honor, he does recognize that Carolyn Rhodes was a friend, however, does not have any intention of ever coming into contact with her again, and is fine with both a stay away order and a no further contact. We are asking that he be considered for a signature bond. However, just because while he doesn't qualify for the Public Defender's Office, it's not by much that he doesn't qualify.
understood. Okay, bond is going to be set at 2,500. It's a surety bond. Next court date is August 17th. No further contact with Carolyn Rhodes, to stay away from 177 Maury Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. No alcohol, no drugs, and no weapons, no firearms. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Next position is 17, Shanks.
All right. This is State versus Vincent Shanks, accused of battery, family violence, from August 4th, 2023. Mr. Shanks, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Kim.
Yes.
This is accusation number 23 CR 4823G. I understand this is Mr. Shanks' 5th arrest. Mr. Howard?
You got a shoplifting conviction in his history, giving false name, and suspended license conviction.
All right, thank you. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, this is my case.
Oh, Mr. Elliott, so excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident is alleged to have occurred on August 4th of 2023. The officers in this case made contact with the victim, Joy Tisdale, that's Joytisdale. The victim stated that during an argument, the defendant hit her on the left cheek, on her face with the flip-flop, leaving a red mark and a small bruise. The victim stated that she then started slapping the accused defensively to protect herself. The defendant advised officers that he hit the victim in the face with a towel, and then he later admitted that he struck her in the face with the flip-flop. The two share a child together and don't live together. My office was able to make contact with the victim. She informed my office that she will not be on the hearing, but we still ask that the court sound for her at the appropriate time. She advised that the two have been together for 3 years and have a 5-month-old son and reside at 1165 Springwood Connector, apartment 662 in Atlanta, Georgia, 30328. The victim stated that this is the first time that the defendant has been physically abusive to her, but he has been verbally abusive to her throughout the relationship. The victim confirmed the events on the warrant and stated that she does fear the defendant when he gets aggressive. The victim stated that she would like anger management, no violent contact, and for the defendant to return to the residence. She called our office back later to inform our office that her 11-month-old daughter also resides at the residence. The victim stated that in early March of this year, the defendant had one of the outbursts and physically assaulted her. She did not call the police, but she did leave the state for 2 months with the children. The victim stated the defendant has never hit her daughter, but she is afraid of him. We're asking still for no further contact at all, no violent contact. We're also asking for a $3,000 bond. We're asking for 1-day anger awareness, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, third-party contact with the child, and to sound for the victim.
Ms. Tisdale? Is not present. Ms. Kim?
Yes, my client actually wants to have a note for the violent contact. It was not my Miss Joy Tisdale was not the one who actually called the police because she was not afraid of him. It was their roommate who actually called. Your Honor, my client has been here in Georgia for more than 13 years, and he had a job that was supposed to be starting yesterday. However, he couldn't start yet because of arrest. He is actually going to be a manager at movie theater, but before that, he was 360 Marketing. He owned his own company. He was a president of the company. We would like to request for signature on bond. He also has a bachelor's degree, Your Honor, and this is his first ever violence offense. There was no violence history whatsoever from his past criminal backgrounds. So we would like to request for signature on bond. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Bond is going to be set at $5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. No further contact with Joy Tisdale to stay away from the location at 1165 Springwood Connector in Sandy Springs, Georgia. Mr. Shanks may return to that location one time only with a police officer to remove his personal belongings. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour. Within 30 days of being released on the signature bond, he will update the court with his new mailing address. As I said, no contact with Joy Tisdale and the minor children in question. He will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 60 days of being released, and he will attend those classes at his expense continuously until it's completed. He will show proof of this class's enrollment to pretrial by his second visit. In order to establish visitation and custody with the children that he shares with Ms. Tisdale, he will file a legitimation action in the appropriate superior court and obtain a superior court order to set forth visitation and custody with the minor children that he shares with Ms. Tisdale. No alcohol, no drugs, and no weapons, and no firearms. His next court date will be sent to his new address. Thank you.
Number 18, Shelton.
Stephen Shelton's case number is 23 CR 4813A, in which he's been accused of battery, family violence from August 3rd, 2023. Mr. Shelton, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney will be Ms. Kim at the present time. I understand this is his 7th arrest. And Mr. Howard, do you have anything else to add?
The 15 battery DV conviction, 05 failure to appear.
All right, thank you. Mr. Walker?
Yes, Sharon, in this case, law enforcement was dispatched to 1175 Hembry Road. They spoke with the victim, Ms. Cassandra Porter, who advised that she was in the midst of a verbal altercation with the defendant when he became irate. He attacked her. He actually jumped on top of her and caused her to fall backwards, twisting her ankle. We did make contact with the victim. She advised that she can barely walk, and she also advised that the victim actually bit her, and that bite mark was observed by the law enforcement officer. She also advised to the victim witness advocate that they do have a history of DV in the past. We are asking for a $3,500 surety bond to the 1-count battery family violence, no further contact with Ms. Cassandra Porter, and to stay away from 1175 Hembry Road.
All right. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is from Wisconsin. However, he's been here in Georgia for a long time, more than 3 years. He is gainfully employed at Classic Collision. He does detailing, quality control supervisor. Your Honor, my client says that their relationship is common law marriage, so which means he's legally single and he completed GED. And Your Honor, my client has no objection to no further contact, stay away, as long as he can get signature on bond, so that way he can get out of the jail and go to work. He denies the allegation, and fortunately, I don't think he had any other. Okay, never mind, Your Honor. So we would like to request for maximum $1,000 good bond if Your Honor is not inclined to give him a signature on bond. Thanks.
All right. I'm sorry. Common law
So-
marriage, and they're not, he's legally single, so which
Right.
one is it?
He's legally single, even though they have been living like a married couple. And Odyssey actually says he is married, but it's not true.
Unmute courtroom 2. Are you married to Miss Cassandra Porter?
No, ma'am. It's just, we've been together a long time, and you know.
What is a long time?
September makes 20 years. You know, that's the kind of commitment, you know, you work on. It don't just happen overnight.
Georgia law does not recognize common law marriages.
I understand. That was just my way of trying to interpret our relationship, and if I worded it wrong.
Common law marriage is not a description. You just have been living together for a long time.
Yes, ma'am. So let me address it in that manner if I can.
You may,
We've been.
but keeping in mind that you have a right to remain silent.
Yes,
Anything you
ma'am.
say, your statements can and will be used against you.
I
Keeping in mind, Mr. Shelton, I'm not trying to shut you up, but I'm just trying to caution you that you have a prior battery family violence conviction. And the prosecutor is looking to upgrade the current charge to a felony charge, because the second arrest for battery family violence is automatically a felony matter when you have a prior conviction. So think about whether you want to make a comment right now. I guess he's shaking his head. All right. Anything else to add, Ms. Kim?
No, nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Bond is set at $3,000. It is a surety bond. Next court date is August 17. He's to have no further contact with Cassandra Porter. He's to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. He's also to stay away from 1175 Hembry Road in Rossville, Georgia. He may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve his belongings. Within 30 days of being released, he must update the court with his new address and mailing information. And at the present time, no alcohol, no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, what is the breakdown of the two charges?
For Mr. Shelton, he's only got one charge of battery family violence, so it's a $3,000 surety bond.
Okay, thank you.
Next case, please, Deputy.
Number 8, Sean Jones.
Have we missed anyone?
No, we got Mayfield coming up next. He's our last person.
Okay. This is Sean Jones, arrested for an offense from August 3rd, 2023. Mr. Judd, have you had a conversation with Mr. Jones, Sean Jones?
I have, Your Honor.
And he's aware of the charge brought against him?
It's my understanding he is, yes.
Okay, this is case 23 CR 4808C. And I understand also Mr. Jones has got a arrest record, he's got 20 arrest cycles on his criminal history record, but the last one was in 2010. Anything since 2010, Mr. Howard?
Not that I saw.
Not that you saw. Okay, Ms. Tellerian, I'm going to waive sounding on the charge, and I've already read the warrant. What is the state's recommendation on bond?
Yes, Your Honor, we're asking for a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Joanne Burrows, that's JoAnneBurroughs, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, stay away from the address, which is 1185 Lucille Ave Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia. No contact with, due to his behavior where
Understood.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you want me to keep going. It said recording stopped.
No, it's still being live streamed. You can
Okay.
continue.
Sorry, we're also
Your Honor,
asking for,
I'm sorry, would it be possible for us to have this discussion in a breakout room just concerning the nature of the charges?
That'll be fine.
And you
Thank
know,
you.
the
We
Solicitor
would have-
General stands for us, so we can go into the breakout room, but whatever is discussed, we have to put it back on the record.
I've already read the warrant. The warrant's a public record, so, and you are asking for a $5,000 good bond. So, Mr. Judd, what's your rebuttal?
well, I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I would be able to finish my recommendation, I would appreciate that. I'm not sure.
Okay, go ahead.
With Your Honor. Due to the nature of the